can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. It's another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. It is Tuesday, August 19th. I couldn't say August. Welcome in, everyone. Whether you are watching and listening live or watching and listening later, it does not matter. For those that are watching and listening later, we go live every single day at 10 a.m. on Twitter. You may call it X, also on YouTube and the Puck Sports mobile app. Yes, right here. You can listen to the show live. Ladies and gentlemen, you can listen to the show live. Go download the Puck Sports mobile app to your smartphone, iPhone, Android, does not matter. And you can listen to us as you take the dogs for a walk, grocery shopping. You're in the car, Apple CarPlay. It all works. And, of course, you can find us everywhere, as I mentioned, Twitter, YouTube, the Puck Sports mobile app, podcasts, all podcast channels, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, up at YouTube later as the show gets podcasted up there on Puck Sports. And, of course, the website, pucksports.com. When you're there, encourage you to go sign up to become a Pucks Posse member. All it costs you is a cup of coffee. That's it. I got a cup of coffee yesterday, $4.69 plus $1 tip, $5.69. Thought to myself, that's a membership to the Pucks Posse. One cup of coffee. All right, we are broadcasting as we always do every single day from the Limback Lumber Studios. Big thanks to Limback Lumber for being a part of Puck Sports. We could not do this show without their support. You can't do any of your projects at home, whether you're a do-it-yourself or a contractor, without the help of our fine folks at Limback Lumber. They offer free deliveries for everything, whole house packages to, again, homeowner do-it-yourself projects, by the way. Old school service, they've been doing it for damn near 100 years, since 1930. The folks there have been open at Limback Lumber. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit their website, limbacklumber.com. Better yet, go inside. Say hi to Paul. Paul's been running it forever. And Matt, he's in there too. And Mark and the entire crew at Limback Lumber. Go in and say hi and talk a little sports with them for a while. They like that more than anything else. I mean, they'll talk lumber, but they love talking sports. All right, coming up on the rundown today, it's a Tuesday. That means Jim Duquette will join us here in a few minutes. We'll talk Major League Baseball. Huge news that Rob Manfred broke during the Little League World Series Classic, Mets and Mariners, was the talk of expansion. And then with expansion, the talk of realignment. Adjusting the cities geographically to cut down on travel time. And where would the Mariners then fall in to that? Who would be in their division? What would they look like? Would we do away with the American League in National League? So we'll get to that. Also, John Canzano will join us. Start of college football is coming up this week. We'll go over the expectations this year of all the four Northwest schools. Of course, we do it every single day. We'll do a little Seahawks camping news. We got in other news, and of course, hey, what the puck. But we got to start first with the Mariners yesterday before we talked to Duquette and their struggles on the road. In fact, they just got hammered last night by the Phillies. I'm screwing around. I'm late to the game, flipping on, taking the dogs for a walk, flip the game on the app. They're like, Riz is on there. It's like 6-0 already. I'm like, what the hell, man? The game just started. The hell, we're already down 6-0. This road trip, which has not been good to them so far, it's so unfortunate too, because the Astros are getting bludgeoned every night, and we should be game or two up or 3 games up on these guys already. Should be in the process right now of burying this team, but they were hammered on the road again. A slight little comeback, but eventually that was gone away when Leguimina couldn't get out of that 7th inning. The problem, though, are these starters and what the hell is wrong with them on the road. I mean, their splits are astounding, home versus away. And I get the ballpark at home. It's a pitcher-friendly park. We all know that. It's easier to pitch there. It's more comfortable to pitch there. That's why they like it there. But, man, the splits this year are dramatic. Take an example let's take Logan Gilbert, for example. At home this year, he's missed some time, and I get all that. He's got an ERA of 2.22. On the road, after last night's game, his ERA has ballooned to 6 on the road. I mean, opponents are damn near hitting 300 off this guy, slugging .512. And did every ball get hit to right field? It seemed like every hit that he gave up was to right field to John Canzano. Bryce Miller, who's going to get the start tonight. Now, Bryce Miller hasn't been good all year, so his numbers aren't good at home, nor are they good on the road. But I'm just using all the starters. But Bryce Miller on the road this year, almost 6.38, creeping up there. Home, it's 5.11. But again, for Bryce Miller, he's been injured. Hasn't been good all year long. He gets the start tonight. We'll see how he reacts. Luis Castillo at home, 2.41. They're almost 2.5 runs worse on the road. And Castillo's at 4.92. George Kirby, 5.08 on the road, 3.38 at home. Excuse me, I had to cough. Picked the wrong time to quit smoking. Couldn't even deliver that line from airplane. Brian Wu has been the most consistent of all the starters. He's been the most consistent all year long. At home, he's got a 2.39 ERA versus 3.48. I don't know what we chalk it up to other than it's not T-Mobile. These parks that they're going to are smaller than that. The weather, I don't know all the factors of it, but is it a confidence thing, execution thing, better opponents, what have you? But it is a real stark contrast with these starters when they head out on the road. They got now the rest of the season. They got 15 games remaining here in the regular season with 36 games. So, almost half their game is going to be on the road. They got to figure it out. They got to figure out this is going to cost them a chance at the postseason. Well, it's going to cost them a chance at the division. Postseason, I mean, I think they're going to get in with one of the wild card spots, but I don't know. Cleveland's coming up on them. And Cleveland is one of the teams that they're going to face on the road coming up because they have road series again with Cleveland coming up in a couple of weeks. Then Tampa, then Atlanta, Kansas City, and then a huge series against Houston there in September. But right now, a game and a half back of Houston. They're tied with the Yankees and the Red Sox for the wild card. Cleveland, again, is not dead yet. Guardians still have a pulse. Only 3 games back now of those 3 teams. The Royals are 3.5 games back. But Pete, who runs the pitchers there for the Mariners, Dan Wilson, this organization's got to figure out why they are stumbling as much as they are once they go on the road. 21 hits allowed last night. I mean, most EMs have given up since, I think it was 2018. Houston's most hits they've had at home since July 6th of 2009. It was just an all-around craptastic day. The silver lining or the positives from yesterday's. Cole Young has been great since the break. And I had former producer to the Stars, Kevin Shockey, look for a stat for me. And right now where he's ranking since the All-Star break, he's one of the top. He's like top 3 9-hole hitter in the game. I mean, to have this guy hitting 9th is ridiculous. But since the break, Cole Young's hitting 275. He's got an on-base percentage of 420. This is going to warm everyone's heart that is sick of watching people strike out. He is walking at a 20% clip right now. He had a 3-run home run in the 7th inning last night, his 4th overall. Garver had a home run there in the 8th inning. We'll get into it a little bit later. I mean, Dan Wilson, I think you'd have to ask Dan Wilson, and they did afterwards. Adam Judah was covering it for the Seattle Times. Why keep him in there for that 7th inning? Gave up 5 earned runs in those 2 innings. He was, once they got to 7-4, why not pull him there? And this has been an issue with Dan Wilson of when to pull starters, when not to pull starters, when to go to your bullpen and all that. But you go back to the 6th inning, he'd already given up a home run to Harper. He'd given up a double to Realmuto. At the very least, after he had given up the Kepler hard single, which was a hard hit, pull him from the game. I mean, he's getting hit hard, and you're within 3 still. Bring in one of your leverage guys. Gabe Spire had pitched since Friday, and then he has the wild pitch. After the wild pitch, he should have been out. I mean, you have Trey Turner coming up, then Schwarber, and then Bryce Harper. And yet he left Gabe Spire there in the bullpen. That's an odd decision last night from Dan Wilson. John Canzano was hit by a pitch last night. X-rays were negative, so fingers crossed he's good. And we're going to talk to Jim Duquette here in just a moment. You know, since the deadline, the Mariners offense has been very, very good. One guy that has not been good has been Eugenio Suarez. Since they've acquired him, he's batting 141. He's got a 188 on base. He's slugging 266. He is striking out 36% of the time since the break. Not even the highest on the team, though, since the break. That honor goes to Dylan Moore, who's striking out 50% of the time since the All-Star break. That is just sad. All right. We're going to talk to Jim Duquette here in just a quick second. But first, let's get a word from one of our sponsors who delivers the world-renowned Jim Duquette every week with us. Of course, that would be our good friends at Flat Stick Pub. If it's fun you desire, it's fun you're going to get at Flat Stick Pub. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, whether it's date night, guys night, ladies night, or large group event, Flat Stick Pub's got you covered. They have 6 great locations across the Pacific Northwest, from Pioneer Square to Kirkland, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. All locations offer the best pub experience in Washington. 2 rules at Flat Stick Pub: drink local and have fun. Pretty simple. So if you like to have fun, love local beer, and great tasting food, make Flat Stick Pub your next spot. Visit them at flatstickpub.com. All right, and Jim Duquette joins us right now from parts unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Duquette with us every single Tuesday. We love having Jim on. MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM Channel 89. Follow him on social media, Jim Duquette GM, host of the Power Alley, which airs daily. Also the Front Office Show, Jim Bowden, on Sundays. And, of course, he's brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Jim Duquette, Dylan Moore, strikeout percentage since the break, 50%. Suarez, since he acquired, 36%. That's a lot. That's a lot of strikeouts.
That's a lot of strikeouts. Usually when you're striking out that much, there's some mechanical flaw going on, especially when it's that dramatic. And that, that's I'm in New York. I'm looking at some Mets hitters because I have to do some Mets pregame and postgame over the next couple of days. They've got a guy or two that are not swinging the bat very well also. But with those two in particular, just having to watch that series, and Suarez, you were starting to talk about Suarez too. There's a couple of guys, those guys are pressing right now. There's no doubt. Luckily, they have a big enough, long enough lineup now, lengthy lineup where you can get by with some guys that are struggling, but they need to start picking it up, especially Suarez. I mean, that's a guy some people thought was going to have a downturn of a in the second half just because he was so good in the first half.
Yeah.
First half, I wasn't one of those guys, but regardless, I think the key with what's going on with the Mariners is they do have some guys that can that are picking up the slack for now.
Were there signs of Suarez maybe cooling down even before the break? Were there people that are worried that he was showing some issues there at the plate?
There were signs in the sense that he has never gone on that type of run for that long of a season, and I think when you look at it, some of it was kind of playing the percentages, which you can do. I felt like in some ways, this year it was different for him, and he was on such a roll, and he sometimes guys can maintain their swing. Like Pete Alonso went through something similar to what a Suarez is going through now, but he was able to come out of it and get back to where he was. He had such a really good start. He was leading the league in RBIs, and he's still among the top 5. Alonso was, and I feel like Suarez is the same type. Like every hitter's going to go through this. Unfortunately, timing of it, matters a lot. And I think when you change uniforms, even though he's been traded before, that can impact you, and see where the pressing is going on. We're just watching Suarez over the weekend against the Mets. I thought that's all it was. The swing was a little long, and that usually is a sign with a player like that, a veteran. He's trying to hit the ball, hit a home run, which is what he's there for. Rather than just kind of keeping that short, nice swing and compact swing and trying to hit line drives. Eventually, he'll get himself back on track, though.
Jim, for people who don't know, you also do work with the Mets, so you saw them up close and personal.
Yeah.
The Mariners, just an overall takeaway from what you saw from them.
Well, I mean, the Friday night game was something, boy. I mean, that was first off, it was entertaining as all get out. That being watching the two of them back and forth, and the offense. What really stood out was, the Mets threw at them some A relievers, and some of them are pitching that great right now, but still, Ryan Helsley is a proven closer, and he was pitching in the eighth, and watching what they did against the pitching of the Mets and their bullpen in particular was impressive, and they did not let up. And now they just had a really well pitched effort against them on Saturday, which what are you gonna do? Rookie pitcher comes up, the guy's got a really good breaking ball. They tried to run up the pitch count as best as they could, but that's going to happen, and sometimes those first time guys with the adrenaline, they can be tough to hit, and that was the Mets' best pitching prospect. And then Sunday it got away from them, a little early there with Kirby. I think what concerned me was Kirby got knocked around, and then Gilbert. You were starting to talk about that a little bit last time. Like, you don't expect that out of those two guys, and that part of it is something. It does happen, but man, when it happens now, when you're chasing the Astros, I think maybe the silver lining is they didn't lose much ground over this recent stretch, this recent road trip that they're on.
What would you put your finger on? The drastic splits with these guys from home and away with these starters is big. It's a wide gap for these starters.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's difficult to figure out. I've had pitchers in the past on that, and it's a lot of times it's in the warm up routine. It's like, okay, well, you have one way that you warm up at home. Obviously, you go to walk to the dugout, you sit for a little bit, and you're going right back out there on the mound and on the road. There's a delay that guys go through that can impact some guys, at least in the early going. But other than that, it's hard to necessarily pinpoint. Usually, I've seen it on the offensive side, both good and bad. Where it's like it's like a tough hitter's park in Seattle. They go out to the road and they end up swinging the bat. Whether Coors Field, if you're a Rocky player, obviously it's impactful a little bit more there. The way the ball, the way the curveball breaks or the sliders break, and so you see a difference on the road. But with pitchers, it's a little harder to figure out, just because those guys are really good, all of them, and they should be able to make adjustments even with new mounds and some mounds that they're not familiar with.
Hey, one of the big things that came out of the Little League World Series Classic, Rob Manfred's sitting down with Carl Ravitch and the ESPN guys, and they're interviewing him, and then all of a sudden he starts talking about expansion and starts talking about if we expand, then the TV deals and changes with that, and then there's this talk of, well, if we do expand by two teams, the realignment of it, do we make it easier geographically for these teams to travel? Obviously, a team like Seattle would welcome that. They travel more than anybody in baseball.
Yeah.
And it kind of caught everyone by surprise how open he was talking about it, Jim. How close? Let's first start with just expansion, then I want to get to what we would do with changing divisions, leagues, eliminating American League, National League, all this. It kind of seems everything's on the table. Let's first start with expansion. What are we talking about in terms of expansion? What are the two cities that have been prominently discussed?
So the one, it's kind of changed a little bit over time. I mean, the one constant has been Nashville in Tennessee. That one is, and there's been a group that's been involved, and it's changed a little bit. Who's involved with that group, just because it's been long, it's been going on for a while. But they've picked out sites. In downtown Nashville's growing like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one that just pops up all the time. Now, none of these are guaranteed, by the way.
Sure.
Montreal has popped up in the past, and has been one. Portland, Oregon has been another one.
Mm-hmm.
There's been Charlotte's one. The one that's more recently been, there's two that more recently have been brought up. One's Austin, Texas, which is a huge city growing in Texas, and that'd be a 13 there. The other one's Salt Lake in Utah, and that one's taken me a little bit by surprise more recently. But I'm hearing it more and more, just because in the NBA, that obviously it's gone well. That franchises, the Jazz have really done a good job there and drawn well, and so that's gotten a lot of legs here recently. So there's still, I think Salt. If I were to sit there and throw, darts out there and odds, Nashville and Salt Lake are the two that have been most prominently mentioned here recently. Yeah.
Okay. We've always heard about Portland,
Yep.
and they've been very active in trying to get it. We've always heard from people that will say that Portland will never happen is because of the Mariners, because the Mariners don't want the competition, because they own this whole region. It's not just Washington, it's Oregon, it's Idaho, it's Alaska, it's all of it. So the Mariners have always been known to be a roadblock to an expansion team in Portland, which is unfortunate because it'd be a great rivalry.
Be a fantastic rivalry, and it would be an opportunity for them to cut down on their travel.
Sure.
Because any player that the one negative of all the positives that there are to play in Seattle, the one negative that pops up is the amount of travel. They travel the most every single year. There's no way around it. And so, you trying to cut that down. And part of this expansion would cut that down. One thing that was kind of curious, and you went through this with a train. So they're talking about potentially getting rid of the American League and National League. I don't think that's going to happen. That was more of a proposal that was out there. What's more likely is to see what we saw a while ago. Milwaukee moved from the American League to the National League. Houston moved from the National League to the American League. We might see a team or two, like Colorado, as an example, might move to the American League to even out some of the divisions. Tampa might move to the National League, and then an expansion team would go in there. You guys went through that in football, right, with the Seahawks.
Sure.
What was that like? Because I think that's the thing that was kind of interesting for me is like all these, they were talking about aligning New York, Boston, and Philly. Okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Even though if the East Coast,
terrific.
Oh, it'd be amazing. Here's the thing: if they have let's say they went East and West, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have 16 in each. The top 8 are getting in, right? So you could get 3 teams out of that still, record-wise. So it's not like it's a slam dunk that they all bound to beat each other up and only one comes out of there. There'd be at least 2 probably, So, but I don't think they're gonna go that route from what I can tell. But I think it's more likely they'll have 1 or 2 teams change. They'll keep somewhat of the divisions and they'll change, American League to National League as an example. And I was kind of curious on the football side, was it noticeable? Was it that big of a deal?
It probably depends who you ask. So for me personally, I still don't like it. I don't.
How many years ago was it now? It's been a while.
Well, let's see, 99. God, it's early. When did they move? 99, they were still in the AFC. God, you know what? Don't put me on the spot.
All right. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Give me a sec. 2001, 2002. Hold on. When did the Seahawks move?
Yes.
Hold on. Because I'm just moved to the NFC. I'm just trying to think in my head. 2002. 2002.
Okay.
I'm just because 99 was like the last season.
You're still bothered by it?
Yeah, because I grew up with those rivals.
Right.
I grew up with Denver and the
Yeah.
Raiders and the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Yep.
And I just that was a built-in hatred for them. And now the Seahawks Niners one has been great.
Yeah.
And that is developed into it. And the Rams to a degree and the Cardinals. It's fine. It's it's not like I hate where we're in. That's probably too strong of a description. I just wish we were back where we used to be. And to me, it was more fun. Maybe it's because the 12-year-old kid in me. What they're proposing, and you brought it up, and I don't know whose idea this was that brought up the Western Conference or the Western Conference division and the Eastern Conference division. Yeah. But this was what I saw was a model based on, and I guess we could exchange Salt Lake City for Portland.
Right.
So a model that I saw was the 2 expansion teams, Nashville and Portland. So if it were Portland / Salt Lake City, let's just say it's that. You got the Mariners, the new team in Portland or Salt Lake City, the A's in Vegas, and the Diamondbacks. And then the other team on the West Coast would be the Giants, Dodgers, Angels, Padres, which again makes sense to me.
Sure.
Then in kind of the Mountain West, I guess, division we could call it, be the Rockies, Kansas City, Texas, and Houston.
Right.
That is the third, and then the last one that would be technically in the Western Conference would be the Cubs, White Sox, Reds, Cardinals.
Right.
And then the Eastern Conference would be one division would be the Twins, Brewers, Tigers, Blue Jays, the Guardians, Pirates, Orioles, Nationals, the new team in Nashville, the Braves, Tampa, and Miami. And then the one that would just be, I mean, I don't think they could have fans at these games because there'd be so many fights. You'd have the Phillies, Mets, Yankees, Red Sox. I mean, that would be incredible.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so
it'd be like the two LA teams with the Giants and Padres. Like there's a few brouhahas going on out there even this year. That would be amazing. It really would.
I personally like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the one thing you couldn't. I would like to flip another West Coast team in where Seattle is, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to ever break up the Giants and the Dodgers, and I get that.
Right.
And certainly now with the Dodgers and Padres, they're not going to do that as well. But I would live with the Mariners being in a division with, let's say it's a team in Portland or Salt Lake. I think the Salt Lake one could develop into a good rivalry just because there was a history between the two basketball teams when the Sonics were still here.
Yeah.
And the Ace has been a good one. But I don't know if this comes to fruition. Sounds like probably too much of a change.
Right.
And you're probably right. It's probably going to be more of, hey, like we saw with baseball and with the NFL, a few teams just switch over, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, the one that you were talking about, that alignment, it would be pretty radical. And
Yeah.
There's just no way that there's an appetite for that. I mean, there's an appetite for change, no doubt. I mean, when you look at, the pitch clock, the DH, in both leagues, potentially the automated ball strike that's coming soon, like, instant replay. We've seen, change, and there's been, over the course of time, every time one of these is brought into the equation, you get, oh, we're ruining the game. I'm not going to watch the game. And you know what? They watch the game. And actually, the pitch clocks turned out to be one of the best things, I think, for the sport. So, the funny part about it, I feel, and it's, not many times do I feel bad for the commissioner because he gets paid to take on these big topics. He didn't even say that he would eliminate the American League and National League, but that's being attached to him, and he's getting criticized for
it was
that.
just somebody brought it up. It floated the idea on the ether. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And my colleague Jim Bowden, he brought up a proposal that he had put together 3 years ago and threw that out there, and that got some run. So maybe it was part of that too. I don't know, but he was just talking about the inevitable, which is expansion is going to happen. He's been telling me this. We've had him on my shows at the All-Star break for the last, every year for the last 5-6 years. He's been talking about expansion, but it was like, okay, we got to get the athletics and Rays stadium situation, get that settled, and then we're going to expand. Well, it's pretty close to being settled. A's are going to Vegas. Tampa's got a new owner coming in, and they're going to get something settled. And so, I'll remind you, the last time was 1998. The Arizona Diamondbacks, Tampa Bay Rays. They got approved in 95. So it took 3 full seasons before they even played one major league game. So once they get approval, there's still a long period of time that has to kind of go out. You got to build out your farm system. Got to have an expansion draft, which I went through the expansion draft. Like there's some cool things that will come out of it. Like for TV, the expansion drafts, like sign me up for that. Like we had it. I was an executive back then. It was cool then, and it was kind of televised. This would be a huge event.
And just to recap, you think that the two prominent cities, the leaders right now, would be Nashville and Salt Lake City?
I mean, that's the two that I hear the most are the two cities that I hear the most. And I hear Portland and Charlotte kind of, if you were to go a next tier of cities, that's the next two. And Portland obviously has been mentioned a lot over the years, but for whatever reason, and maybe it's more because of what's going on in the NBA.
Sure.
Salt Lake's, really popped up. And Austin, has been kind of like on the outskirts, but that's gotten more attention just because of the growth that's been going on there.
Switching gears, but you're back over just the stuff on the field, off the field. Help me understand exactly what's going on with Ketel Marte and Arizona. I've read the stories, and I'll be honest with you, my first reaction to this, Jim, is how is he not suspended and fined by the team? And I don't understand it. I mean, I know there's some things that happened, his personal life with his home, but this is a guy who left his team and didn't tell anyone what he was doing.
Well, so to clarify that a little bit, so he had been gone during the All-Star break.
Right.
And then what ended up happening was he had the robbery of his house. And instead of coming back for that, he took, from the way he explained it, and he came out and explained it last night. He apologized for that. And he said he was in a bad place mentally. He's had a tough year. He's had a couple of these, right? He had somebody in Chicago yelling at him about his mom. He's had a couple of these, and he's an emotional type of player. Kind of keeps to himself, but he basically stayed in the Dominican a couple extra days rather than returning back to the team. Now, he had to apologize for it. Apparently he did. There was a lot of information that I wasn't, that nobody was really aware of until a couple of these articles came out. But it does seem like, it caused some resentment, and it is something that the team needed to handle. I know a couple players came to his defense on that. The manager did too, Torrivello, but it certainly sounded like, he was trying to take some of the blame on himself, which and apologize, which apparently he hadn't done to this.
But he was gone. So for people who don't know, he was gone during the All-Star break. Obviously, he was break. He's back home. He did not come back. So his home was burglarized during the All-Star break. He did not come back to the team.
Right.
He missed 3 games, including one game was his bobblehead night. As I understand it, reading it, he did not tell the team. They were correct. They were unaware that he was not coming back.
They thought he was in Arizona, and he was not.
Yes.
He didn't tell him he was still in the Dominican.
And again, listen, I'm sure that is traumatic. I've never had that happen.
Yeah.
And then there was the incident earlier this year, but it just seems like a lack of judgment, at least on his part, not to inform the organization what was going on. And then you hear stories of where teammates were upset with him.
Yep.
Because of past issues of what they have claimed of not trying all that hard.
Right. Yeah. Or not playing, down the stretch last year during a pennant race, and he asked out of a game, it wasn't in the lineup, wasn't feeling well enough. And, you hardly ever do you get players that question player, their own teammate who, doesn't want to be in the game. Usually they give you the benefit of the doubt, but he's been there for now, I think 9 years. Does that sound right to you? He's traded from Seattle, but I think it's been 9 years in Arizona, something along those lines, which is a long time. It felt like it hadn't been that long, but whatever the case is, he's one of the top players, but he's needed, it's always in contrast to something else, right? So Corbin Carroll, obviously Seattle guy, Northwest guy, like he plays hurt all the time. He had a fracture and he came back within like 10 days. Like he was playing with a fracture. So you're being compared to fairly or not to somebody else, a star player already on your team too. So I think that's an aspect to it. The bottom line is he's a really, really talented player. It sounds like to me he's like one of those race cars that can really run fast, but if there's something that's out of sync or out of whack, it doesn't run nearly as much. You got to shut him down like that. That's what it sounds like he kind of is. He's missed a lot of games this year. Missed 33, 34 games. Some of it's hamstring related. Some of it's, he hasn't been 100% and he was a no-go.
I mean, just put it in perspective. I mean, and I think you're aware of the story. I think we may have talked about it or not. I mean, Julio Rodriguez's home was burglarized earlier this year. Now, many people didn't know about it forever. He kept it private, ongoing investigation, because there was a series of burglaries at athletes' houses around this area. His girlfriend was in the house at the time and barricaded herself in the laundry room.
Scary.
again, he didn't leave the team. You know, he didn't take any games off. You know, he allowed the process to play on. I mean, I would imagine it would be very traumatic for someone like Julio Rodriguez. All right, before you go, real quick, one more quick thing. Vlad Guerrero injury, it doesn't seem to be serious. The hamstring is going to MRI. It's going to be okay, you think?
He's getting an MRI, got taken out of the game. It didn't seem like it was going to be anything overly serious. Hopefully it's not. I mean, they've been playing so well. He's been playing well. They really need his offense. You know, his power production's been up here since July 1st. So, you know, he did it on a play. He's done that a lot, right? He'll stretch and he'll do the splits, and you're like, no, what are you doing that for? You know, in your younger years, you maybe, and he's still kind of a young guy, but you know, when you're 23, you react a little differently than when you're 26 or 27 or you're 30 or older, like the two of us. We could not be doing splits like he does. But I think with that, they might have dodged the bullet. And it seemed like I was watching some of the broadcast for the Jays, and it sounded like he was even maybe feeling it as early as the first inning. So I don't know. It might have been when he stretched for the throw from Bichette that he aggravated it more. We'll probably have some information on that a little bit later, but it didn't seem as that serious where he had to go on the IL.
All right, thank you, Jim. And again, you can get more of Jim every single day. MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM Channel 89, host of the Power Alley, airing daily. Also, the Front Office Show with his good friend Jim Bowden that airs there on Sundays. All brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Thanks, Jim. We'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, see you next Tuesday. Thanks, Puck.
There you go. Again, follow him on social media, Jim Duquette, GM. Good stuff there on expansion and what would expansion look like in terms of realignment. Again, just reiterating what he had heard, that at least in the inner circles of baseball, the two cities, I should say, that are prominently discussed when it comes to expansion are Nashville and Salt Lake City. That is the first tier. The second tier appears to be Portland and Charlotte. And again, I want Portland. I would love to see Portland get it. You have to understand that this organization here would not want it. And for a million reasons. The number one reason is geographically, they don't want the competition because the Mariners, again, one of the few areas, one of the few teams, but, you know, from a real geographical pull, I mean, the Cubs are like that with the Midwest, but you know, there's other teams around there. There's no one else around here. So if you're a baseball fan in Oregon, you naturally just gravitate towards the Mariners. Same thing for Idaho, same thing for Montana, Alaska, all of it. So they have this great reach and great pull, and they would be leery of wanting another team there. There was our good friend, we've had him on before, Sports Biz, Maury Brown. He had caught up with John Stanton. God, this was 6-7 years ago, 5, maybe less than that, and asked him that. And his answer to Portland getting a team was very lukewarm. Very, very lukewarm. I mean, remember what John Stanton said about having the new arena, the Sonics arena, next to them, the big ugly neighbor. I mean, so does he want another team in the same sport as competition? From a business side, that they would look at it not favorably. Now, for travel and a partner and a team in their own division, it would be great. I mean, I don't know how people out here would react to this. I mean, I look at this division right now, and I just, if they were to break it up or the Mariners were being some different division, it wouldn't matter to me. There's not a great rivalry with anyone. Does anyone wake up? I mean, you have a hatred and dislike for the Astros. The Astros have dominated the Mariners. There is no rivalry between the M's and the Astros because the Astros have beaten their ass all the time, every year. So, I mean, if we were in a different division with the Astros, wouldn't lose sleep over the Rangers being out. I mean, none of them. So if there was a different division where Seattle found themselves in with a team from Portland and Salt Lake City, then it was the A's and Diamondbacks, fine. I mean, the M's and Diamondbacks would be a good one just because of it's a decent rivalry in football between the Seahawks and the Cardinals. There's a lot of people from Seattle that live in Arizona. And so, yeah, that have migrated down there. So that would be good. I mean, I would love to see the Giants in it or even the Padres in it. But if they were to go that route, that just real radical change of an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference, you're not breaking up the Giants and the Padres and the Dodgers. So that would just make too much sense. But we'll see. I mean, I hope Portland's got a shot at it. We'll talk to Canzano about it coming up here shortly when he joins us. Maybe he's got some new information on that one besides all the college football topics that we will get down to. All right, let's get to our Seahawks camping news. Every day we check in with the Seahawks camp and what they got going on. They will travel to Green Bay coming up tomorrow. They've got a joint practice on Thursday. They will play this weekend in their final preseason game. They're against the Packers. They've got 1 week before they cut down the roster down to 53 players. And for the most part, you start looking, at what they're going to do in terms of guys that are on the bubble. It seems fairly set. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of debate over some of the final positions, maybe the final wide receiver position. Maybe they can make who makes the team there, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of debate, between those last few players. It doesn't sound like Cody White probably will make the team, but they can probably sneak him through the practice squad. Jake Bobo's probably set on the team. I mean, I think they're probably the biggest competition right now is at that third running back spot. I think between George Holani and Damian Martinez. I think we've watched the first 2 games, even though Martinez was very good in that second preseason game against the Chiefs. I think that, based on the camp, based on reports out of training camp and even the first 2 preseason games, looks like Holani's got that spot right now. And we'll see. And I don't know if they can get Damian Martinez. I don't know if they could get either one of those running backs back to the practice squad. I would think that somebody in football would snag one of those 2 guys for sure. Offensive line seems to be set. Whether it was going to be Oluwatimi's job before he lost it, based on the injury and Sundell kind of taking over and Sundell's kind of run with him. He's looked sharp in the game. He's entrenched on kind of that starting center spot. Obviously, Zabel was going to start from day one, cross at left tackle. Bradford has wrapped up that right guard spot. He's just looked good, and he's in better shape. Looks more physical and agile and all of that. And Christian Haynes just never took advantage of his opportunities, and it will go down as a wasted draft pick, but a draft pick in which there was high expectations for him coming out a couple of years ago from UConn and had this reputation of this great physical guard and road grader and all of that. And then he got to the NFL, and maybe it's the level of competition that he had there. Just looked overmatched from the get-go, did Christian Haynes. And you're seeing a much healthier Abe Lucas there over at right tackle. So the offensive line seems to be set. Defensive line, probably no question marks there, other than the question mark of Uchenna Nwosu and his injury situation. Will he be able, to be ready there for week 1? And how effective and how healthy will he be? It leads to the questions that, many of us have talked about. Anytime a defensive end is disgruntled with a contract or anything, you're like, he would be a perfect fit for the Seahawks. This week's flavor is Trey Hendrickson. We'll have some news on Trey Hendrickson in our other news segment to get you updated on. Or if it was Micah Parsons earlier during camp because of his contract holdout or contract issues with the Cowboys. Jadeveon Clowney's name has been thrown out there because of his relationship there with Mike McDonald. But in terms of just the camp battles, there's just not a lot. Really, it doesn't seem like it's going to go down there to the wire when it comes to the Seahawks making decisions for their football team, which is a good thing. All right, we'll transition from Seahawks camping, talk a little college football. We'll sprinkle in a little MLB news here with John Canzano. But first, let's get a word from one of our sponsors, been with us for a very long time, the Cougar Collective. Join the Cougar Collective today, your home base for all NIL opportunities, connecting student athletes, fans, and business owners. Join the 1890 Club for as little as $18.90. You can also make a one-time donation. And if you're a business, you can collaborate your brand. Also, drink the Old Crimson Legendary Lager brewed by Pike Brewing. Sales benefit the Cougar Collective. Visit cougarcollective.org. Go Cougs! All right, joining us right now, I wish you would have kept him back on, John Canzano from johncanzano.com, host of the Bald Face Truth Radio down in Portland, Oregon, 750 The Game from 3 to 6 p.m. Follow him on social media at John Canzano BFT, and he joins us inside the Limback Lumber Studios. Put the glasses back on, Teddy Savalas. I can't hear you. You're not talking. No audio. I'm gonna put you back. Can't hear John. That's okay, unless I have something on my end. Give me 1 second so I can text Johnny. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Okay.
No, hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. What did you do? Do you know how to work your equipment? Come on, Canzano.
Sorry, man.
It's all good.
Sorry.
It's all good. No. You know what? E1 on you. E1 error on Canzano.
Let's not let him score a run here. Okay.
That's
Double
right.
play ball.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, let me start. I'm going to get into college football.
Yeah.
But now we got on to baseball. I just had Jim Duquette on, who's my national baseball guy, MLB Network Radio, former GM of the Orioles and Mets, and we were talking about Rob Manfred's comments this weekend at the Little League World Series Classic with the Mets and the Mariners, and he started talking about expansion, new TV deal, possible realignment with if they do expand. And now that expansion comes up, Duquette told me that inside the baseball world, the two teams, the most popular cities that are being mentioned right now are Nashville and Salt Lake City. That's tier 1, and tier 2 is Portland and Charlotte. What are you hearing on your end about expansion in Portland with MLB?
Well, I know that the group in Portland has control of a piece of property on the South Waterfront. I know that they're feeling good about the investment that they have and the investors that they have involved on their end. They've been waiting for Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball to signal that expansion is actually happening so that they can activate and motivate. But I think they're still waiting to see what Major League Baseball is still waiting to see. Do the A's really land in Vegas? What happens with the Rays? And then it will be expansion. And I think Manfred's comments were greeted with enthusiasm in Portland. The recent sale of the Trailblazers complicates things, I think, in Portland because, look, I think that the city's got the will to invest in a new NBA arena or maybe refurbish Moda Center or do the Major League Baseball thing. I'm not sure you can do both of those things. And I think the city would have to pick one or the other. Meanwhile, there is some sentiment in Portland that this isn't a Salt Lake City versus Portland conversation, that it could be Salt Lake City and Portland, or it could be Nashville and Portland, or Salt Lake City or Portland or Nashville could be a relocation. I know the Diamondbacks have not been happy in Maricopa County. And so there's some question on, do the Rays end up in Nashville, and then does it free up baseball to go Portland, Salt Lake City, and then realign? I think, Manfred's comments certainly got the wheels turning in Portland again, but I think that this group is, up against more than Major League Baseball now, because if the city is asked to come up big for an NBA arena, will a Major League Baseball ballpark also be able to happen in Portland? I think that's asking a lot.
So both, for just to make sure I understand, both projects will ask for public money.
Yeah. And the baseball stadiums got it already. They just recently got $800 million from the state legislature in the form of a bond. And so I don't think that they're going to come and ask the city of Portland or the state of Oregon for a big check, but there's infrastructure that has to happen around the baseball ballpark that would fall upon the city, would fall upon the state of Oregon. And, while there's been a sea change in Portland, the politics right now are very favorable with athletics. It's a weird time. In my 20 years plus here, this has been the most favorable time. I think they've got wind at their back, from a sports standpoint. But I'm having a hard time seeing okay, if Tom Dundon does come in and he buys the Blazers and he asks for massive improvements to Moda Center or a brand new arena, and Major League Baseball is trying to bring a team to Portland, and those things happen at the same time, I kind of wonder if the city will have to pick a horse.
Yeah, it to me, I think the two cities, Portland and Seattle, very similar. And I think you start asking public money for sports.
Yeah.
it's just in my experience, has always just been a non-starter. I mean, I think that's how the Kraken were able to do it up here with Climate Pledge, because they were just like, we're not going to ask there's no public money whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's all privately funded. It's these two cities align with a lot of their thinking, especially when it comes to sports topics like this.
Yeah, they have the 800 million in the bank, right? So they have that. If they break ground and they build a stadium, the state has committed a bond. It's the jock tax. It's associated with taxing the players' salaries. That's how they got it passed. And so they have that available to them. That was a big win. Now, I do think in Salt Lake City, there's a little bit of an issue. You've got, a widow potentially, bringing a Major League Baseball team there. They just invested in a AAA ballpark. They just got hockey. It's a very similar, I think, question in Salt Lake City. Do they need a hockey team, an NBA team, and a Major League Baseball team on top of the University of Utah and BYU sports? Or do you start to get saturated there? And then in Portland, I do think both would work, but it's more a question of like, hey, if the Blazers are asking for a huge investment in Moda Center, do you have the will as a city to do both of these things?
How has Tom Dundon, who has purchased the Blazers, been received? I saw maybe a comment. I'm assuming he said this, that, hey, the expectation is to keep the team there. If I'm in Portland, I'm like, excuse me, expectation?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't it be a priority to keep him there? But how has he been received so far?
Well, I think, Blazer fans since 2018, they've been in purgatory, right? There's no owner. It's rudderless. And so anybody would have been greeted with enthusiasm. Anybody who wanted the team and was a billionaire would have been greeted with enthusiasm. And I think Dundon has to this point. I'm going to publish a piece later today that gets into the rest of the ownership group. So if people want to read it, they can read it. But it looks deeper at what else is going on behind the scenes. And there's some question here about, this ownership group and who else is involved. And so I think everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens, but he's doing what billionaires do, right? He is scaling. He has gone from the NHL and the Carolina Hurricanes. We're talking about NHL franchises that are valued around 900 million to 1.2 billion, and he's scaling into a new world here with the NBA. So he's going to need other and outside investment. But his proof of performance is solid. Like, the Hurricanes make the playoffs. They compete. The area around that arena needed help. He's investing and saying, he wants to develop. So they've launched this huge development that includes a hotel, retail space in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they're going to create an entertainment district around the arena. I think his play, like anybody's play, would be, hey, I would like ideally to keep the team in Portland, right? But, if you don't give me what I want, then, I turn into Clay Bennett pretty quickly. So I think, there's going to be a lot of will in Portland to give Dundon what he wants as it pertains to Moda Center. And by the way, the city now owns that building, Puck. The Blazers sold it to the city for $1. And the city now has the priority or the responsibility to upgrade that arena, not the team. And so I do think there will be a little more public will, knowing that, hey, you're going to get stuck with an arena and no tenant if you don't invest in this thing.
Not to tip what you got coming out later, JohnCanzano.com. You say others that are with the ownership group, there's some questions about them. The questions being whether they would keep the team there?
Questions being, will the NBA approve a potential group that's got, some questionable people involved? And it should be just
juicy. This is
it should be just minutes after my appearance here, I will post. And so it's just, the NBA Board of Governors, they have the ultimate approval. And listen, these aren't like a bunch of saints, right? These billionaire owners in the league, you start kicking around like how they all made their money. And there are some questions, but you have to present on paper a viable group that looks like, you're inviting them into a new club. And Dundon is the majority owner, so he'll get looked at hard, right? Sure. He made his money in subprime automobile loans, and, someone's got to do it. But, there may be some questions about that. Certainly, he's being sued for $180 million by the Alliance of American Football because he agreed to invest in that league and then withdrew his investment after he kind of poked around the financials of the league. And, he's being sued. So, they're going to have questions for Dundon, but I found it very interesting. This is what kind of got my radar going. I found it interesting that this ownership bid was so public. It was like, here's the owner, here's the bid, the Blazers are being bought, and hey, guess who else is coming in on this deal? And they presented a couple of local ownership pieces, including Tim Boyle at Columbia Sportswear. I reached out to Boyle, and in fact, yeah, he is kind of interested in kicking the tires and potentially investing. But Puck, there was a little bit of fake it till you make it feel to me when this went public. And I kind of wondered if, how much of this money do they actually have? Or are they floating, hey, Dundon's got a group and he's looking for other investors because they're looking for some other investors. So I started, naturally, I'm curious about that. I started drilling into, all right, where's the money coming from here? Who's actually involved in this deal? And, what I found out was interesting. And I think people will be into it.
All right, John, we'll have more on this at johncanzano.com. That's the price right there to sign up to his website.
I almost had it online right before we started. It explains my technical problem. Okay,
it's just fine. So I love this, and it sounds like it's a story of unsavory characters, and I love unsavory characters.
It's unsavory. It's unsavory.
College football begins this Saturday. You can sit your butt down and be able to watch Kansas State and the Cyclones of Iowa State kick off at 9 a.m. in really what has been known for years as a college football hotbed, Dublin, Ireland.
Excited. Really excited for this one. Yeah, no. Hey, we've got college football. Did it sneak up on us?
Oh, yes.
Or did we see it coming all the way?
No, I didn't even, I'll be honest with you, until a few days ago, I was looking, I'm like, oh, it starts this week? I'll be honest with you, I didn't know. I really didn't.
Here's part of the problem, and I think it's part of the caution I would give with the college football playoff expansion talk and everything that's gone on. All of these sports have become year-round, right? With the two transfer portals, the longer season, the playoff, all the discussion about media rights and realignment and, what are we doing with the playoff? Can't we just leave it at 12 for a little bit and see how it goes? But I think that college football is in dangerous territory here, Puck. And this is a byproduct of it. You and I are just getting to the games, and gosh, did it sneak up on us. And here comes week 0. But I kind of wonder if they're ruining the sport itself by making it about everything but the sport. And I know Tony Petitti in the Big Ten is floating this idea of 24 or 28 teams. They wanted 4 automatic qualifiers. They're trying to jam in the expansion of this playoff for 2026. And meanwhile, they're treading into the NFL's territory. And the NFL has done this year-round thing like nobody else. Free agency, the combine, the draft, it's all become made for TV and marketable. But I don't think college football should be in that space. It has to remain about the games in the regular season. And I think they're marginalizing it. And the fact that it's sneaking up on us after we all say, can't wait for college football to start, now it's sneaking up on us. It tells me there's a little bit of exhaustion with the sport itself and the drama around it. And I think at about week 8 or 9, this season's going to feel really long because of it.
I think it's for some, because I always associate both NFL and college, but really college, that it starts after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Or that weekend. Or that's when the college football season starts. I think starting before Labor Day, for me, does not feel right about the sport. I will disagree, though, with, and listen, it's the second most popular sport in the country. And if they want to go year-round, I think they would find similar success to the NFL.
Okay, but let's say they expand. Let's say they go to 16 or they go to 24 or 28 teams.
Put them all in, John.
Yeah. Okay, put them all in. When do we need to start the season in order to get that done? Are we playing August 1st? Are you playing in July? You're starting. Otherwise, you're head-to-head with the NFL playoffs. You're head-to-head with the championship games and the Super Bowl, and you don't want to be in that space if you're college football.
I think for the other sports, I would agree with you, but and again, they wouldn't overtake the NFL at all. There's no way. No one would. but I think their numbers would be respectable.
I think you look at the playoff games that went head to head with the NFL games last year, they got clobbered, and people pointed to Boise State and, others that were involved in those games. And they said, oh, they weren't the marquee programs. I think it was that, when fans are given a choice, are you going to tune into an NFL game? You're going to tune into a college game. They're picking the NFL game.
I agree, but what were those numbers though?
I don't have them in front of me, but they were bad.
I'm just saying, but put them up against any NBA number or an MLB number. Wouldn't it clobber those?
They weren't enough to justify. I could see what college football is doing when they announced the scheduling of the games. They're going, we don't want any part of being on the same day as the NFL. We don't want any hint of that. And so, granted, you could hold those playoff games on Thursdays. You can hold them on Fridays. They get good numbers, but you're starting to create problems for yourself when you extend the season and you're going head to head with the most important part of the NFL season. And, I'm like, look, I'm okay if you want to go to 16, but this whole idea of going to 24 or 28, I almost think Tony Petitti and the Big Ten are saying, all right, you didn't like my idea of 4. I'm going to throw something more outlandish at you so the other deal looks better. You know what I mean? It's almost like this is a negotiation, You don't want 16. How about 28? How about 50? Okay, yeah, 16 sounds great to the rest of us.
Is there traction for this?
In some corners, I think more inclusion is going to appeal to the SEC and the Big Ten. They want their teams in this in the same way they want more NCAA tournament bids. They want to expand. They don't want to go to 72, 76 teams in the NCAA tournament because they feel like, hey, let's let in Butler. Let's let in the Sun Belt second place team. No, they want 6 and 7 teams in the power conferences to have access to the NCAA tournament. And they'll justify it by saying, hey, our conferences are growing. But the problem is they're growing to the point where you have 18 teams in the Big Ten and 16 in the SEC. They don't even play each other in football to the point where, we can't tell if Indiana's good. We can't tell who are your best teams. We don't know. And their argument is, well, then put them in the playoff and we'll find out. Let's settle this in the regular season. I don't think we need to go beyond 12 right now because I think we learned a lot last year in the 12-team playoff about what buys do to your playoff picture and what automatic qualifiers do to your playoff and how the seeding, you saw there was all that seeding problem, the top 4 highest ranked conference champions. No, let's do away with that. Let's just seed them straight, because Ohio State was underseeded because of that. And, I think we learned something. So let's do some more learning. Let's see the 12-team playoff another couple times before we start getting crazy. But 24 or 28 doesn't work for me.
Well, one change they need to make it, and I love it, and I still to a degree love it. I don't love the sport as much as I used to, but I love preseason rankings. I get a kick out of it. I get a kick out of the magazines, Sports Illustrated. Here's the, Sports Illustrated's college football preview in the top 10. Go through all that. But the preseason rankings, AP, it does damage because you rank these teams so high. And so when they play early on in the season, and if you're not ranked, Indiana was a case last year. I mean, how long did we have to argue with Indiana as they going through this regular season? Because I don't think they started the preseason ranked at all. I mean, they kind of come out of nowhere. So they've got to keep building their way up where these teams that are ranked so high, they get so much rope, so much leash throughout the season. So I just do away without the rankings. I mean, start the rankings. Yeah. I know others have pitched ideas. I don't know. Week 4 after the first month.
I'm with you. And the argument will be made like, hey, something else would pop up in that vacuum that would impact the thinking. Well, let it happen. The Associated Press, should not be part of the story, and they are making themselves the story by putting out this AP preseason poll. So, yeah, you're right. You look at Kansas State a year ago. I had a suspicion early on that Kansas State was not very good, but they stayed ranked, Puck, forever. It took like 4 weeks for them to kind of fall down, and then people went, "Oh, Arizona State is actually the better team."
Sure.
And look, the same thing's going to happen this year. There are teams that are ranked in the top 15 that are going to end up unranked. There are some teams that are unranked that are going to end up in the top 20. And the problem is television loves this because it can put that little number next to the school's name, and they can sell the early season games as a big deal. Oh, these are two teams in the top 15. They're really not. We don't know anything about these teams. We don't know if they're good or not.
Exactly. All right. What expectations? Let's go through the Northwest schools. Expectations coming up this season. Let's first start with Oregon. Speaking of the Associated Press, they come in ranked the 7th team in the country. They'll open up against Montana State. Not much of a non-conference schedule. I mean, their only non-conference opponent worth anything is Oklahoma State, and they have them week 2. September 27th, they have a heavyweight matchup. They got to go in on the road to face Penn State, who comes in preseason ranked number 2. What's the outlook on Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks?
Yeah, remember last year they started really slow, right? They didn't look good in the opener against Idaho. They had to kick a field goal at the end of the Boise State game to win. Yeah. It took them about a month before they looked good. I'm curious to see how they're going to start because they've got Dante Moore at quarterback. They've got a lot of new pieces on that offense. Will they struggle out of the gates? Especially, they're playing a pretty good FCS team in Montana State to go like the number 2 team in that division. So will they have a little bit of a struggle to begin or not? So there's some question there. Like, let's put some eyes on Oregon and see if they go through what they went through last year, or do they come out with a chip on their shoulder because of last year and Dan Lanning's got them flying around? So I don't know. But I'm looking at Oregon's schedule, and it really comes down to, the game at Penn State on September 27th, the game at Iowa. There's 2 road games. Everything else you look at, they're going to be favorites in all the rest of those games. I don't think they're going to have to do anything special to win most of those games. And then the only other one that looks dicey to me is the season finale against Washington. If DeMond Williams Jr. is as good as I think he is, he's going to steal a game or 2 here or there. Is that a game that he could steal? Maybe that's what we learn about Oregon through the course of the season, but I still have him penciled in at 11-1, 10-2. They're a playoff team. And, I think Dan Lanning, it's funny the criticism he's taken in the offseason and the questions about his coaching. I've been asking about his coaching. He went 13-1 last year, Puck, and I'm sitting here nitpicking him.
But people still don't believe in him, though.
Yeah.
Because I think the reaction from people on the outside is are they good because of him, or are they good because of the resources the school has?
Well, you gotta answer the question of what is the job of a head coach. And if the job is to get the best Jimmies and Joes on that roster with the resources you have available to you, Dan Lanning's killing it, right? In year 1, he goes 10 wins. In year 2, he ups that. In year 3, he goes undefeated in the Big Ten, wins the Big Ten championship. He's doing well, and particularly doing well when he's got the better players on the field, right? When he doesn't, when all things are equal, it gets a little dicey. It got dicey for him at Washington a couple of seasons ago, right? Lost both of those games. Barely beat Ohio State at home, then got boat raced by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Beat Penn State, but gave up 500 yards and didn't really adjust on the defensive side of the ball. I talked with Tosh Lapoy, the D coordinator, just earlier this week, and he said, look, what they learned in those Penn State Ohio State games is, particularly the Ohio State game, is Chip Kelly made some massive adjustments against them that just exploited them. And I think they've got to do a better job playing the chess game when they get in those high-level games. And that's going to be the game at Penn State, the game at Iowa, and maybe that game against Washington and Jed Fish and DeMond Williams Jr. at the end of the year. So those are the 3 games. Can Dan Lanning go 2-1 in those 3 games? Then he has a great season. He goes 1-2. People are going to start talking about his ability to coach.
Switch over to Washington. They will open up the season at home against Colorado State. 2 home games, also against UC Davis. Now, part of the reason they moved was to get more exposure. Both of those games kick off at 8 on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah, I love.
That's a little dig, okay? I'm petty. I'm a petty person, okay? I'm a petty person. I just laugh when the first 2 games are at 8:00 at night on the Big Ten.
Well, I just laugh too when the Oregon fans and the Washington fans, they thought they were going to be kicking off on noon on Fox every week. The placeholder you hold for the Big Ten is you are in that Pacific time zone window, and you're not Michigan and Ohio State. They're going to play on Friday night. They're going to put you in weird windows. That's the life you're going to lead for the foreseeable future. And it's the trade you made.
What do you think of Fish in year 2 at the helm?
It's early for him. The problem he has, and it's a good problem, is he's got the quarterback and he's got the running back and he's got the wide receiver, but he doesn't have the offensive line yet. And they're bigger on the offensive line, but we all know that takes time. It takes seasoning those guys up front. And so it'll be really interesting to see how good they can get, how fast on the offensive line. If they can improve on the offensive line, that's a team, it's picked to go, 7.5 wins in Vegas. I think they could go over that if that offensive line comes together. If it doesn't come together, it's going to be Damon Williams running for his life like he did in the Oregon game last year. He got sacked 10 times. Right. So there's the question. They got shoved around by Big Ten opponents last year. So what did Jed do? He went out and recruited a bunch of kids who were 6'5", pushing towards 300 pounds. So how fast can those guys get good? And that's the question. But I said it earlier. I think Damon Williams Jr. is going to steal at least a game or two where Washington's not a favorite. And so I'm looking at him and going, okay, can they do that? And can the offensive line get better? If they do, that could be a 9-win team, Puck. And it would be, I think, a little bit of a nightmare for the Washington State fans.
Yeah, when they had that third game, the Apple Cup in Pullman on September 20th, and they got to come right back home and take an Ohio State team who enters 2025 ranked third there in the country. You mentioned before they'll end their 25 campaign against Oregon at home on November 29th. All right, Washington State will open up against the vaunted Vandals of Idaho. By the way, again, I got season tickets here, and I'm gonna vent for a second. I paid the same amount of price that I've paid for the last 6 years. And Godspeed to everyone that works over the marketing department over there. I don't know how they sell this home schedule to people. And they're doing a bunch of different things and trying to fix the in-game experience. What would have helped me? How about you drop the prices down a little bit? Because I'm getting Idaho, San Diego State, get UW, great. Toledo, Louisiana Tech, and Oregon State. I mean, that doesn't really want me to go jump in the car and drive 5.5 hours.
It's a tough sell. But, if you're being realistic as a fan, this was a schedule that, like Oregon State's schedule, had to be piecemealed together. Sure. And they couldn't control their conference schedule because they don't yet have a conference of more than 2 teams. And playing this home and home is going to be fun, but only if Washington State can be competitive in those games. And so, on the bright side, Puck, you might have a team that can win a bunch of these games that in a coaching change and in a transfer portal year where you had a lot of attrition, maybe you can go win some games, and have a nice record. But you're right. They're going to have to do some things with bringing fans into the fold and convincing fans that, hey, this is really not about 2025. This is about the momentum you really want to have as you go into the new look Pac-12 in 2026, because, Washington State and Oregon State should compete at the top of that conference. And everybody believes it's going to be Boise State and Oregon State and maybe San Diego State at the top of that conference in football. Maybe Texas State will rise up. They're talking big. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about Washington State. And so where are the Washington State fans? Are they going to buy into the Cougar Collective like they should? Are they going to support by showing up? So maybe what you're doing is you're voting by putting your fanny in that stadium and saying, hey, we're here. And we're here for whatever comes next. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough thing to say, hey, go 5.5 hours and go see Idaho.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, the Apple Cup will be crazy, and that will be well attended. And it's, it's going to be an interesting time because it's, that third week there of September. Their road schedule is great. I mean, they'll make or break them. I mean, those back-to-back trips to the South, October 11th at Ole Miss, and then the next week at Virginia, that will go a long way to see. I mean, a long way to see what their season will look like. I mean, I do. It's interesting, and maybe they could have spaced that a little bit more. You get Oregon State. I mean, the Oregon State-Wazoo matchup, played twice in 4 weeks. Yeah, I would have liked to see that spread out a little bit. But
how about Jake Dickert and Wake Forest going to Oregon State?
I think a lot of Wazoo fans should travel down to that one. And root for the Beavers. Beavs, give me outlook. What do you think of the Beavs?
Yeah, well, this is an interesting one because I made an appearance on a Las Vegas radio show the other night, and they said to me, they were talking about Oregon, they were talking about Washington, and I said, guys, the number that jumped off the board at me is the number that just wasn't right, was seeing Oregon State at 6.5 wins on the board. This Oregon State schedule has 7 or 8 really winnable games after the first month of the season. And I think Oregon State could start as good as 2-2, 1-3 at worst. I think that they have 8 wins plus maybe written all over them. If they can beat Cal in the opener, there's a 9-win season out there for Oregon State, and that number's sitting at 6.5. I don't think the sportsbook did their homework. I don't think they looked at the schedule. They got to go to Appalachian State, but they have Wake Forest at home. They have Cal at home. They have Fresno State at home. That schedule is very manageable, including the 2 Washington State games, depending on how good the Cougs are.
Yeah. All right, John, you can check out John's work at johncanzano.com. You can listen to his radio show, The Bald-Faced Truth, down in Portland, Oregon, 7:50 the game from 3 to 6. And momentarily, as we started off the show, he's got a piece coming out on the new ownership group from the Blazers, Tom Dundon and crew, and some unsavory characters associated with said group. Well, be on the lookout for it, John.
Okay, man. Thank you.
We'll talk to you next week. There he is, John Canzano. Again, read his work at johncanzano.com. Listen to the radio show down in Portland, the game from 3 to 6. He joins us every single Tuesday, talking primarily college football, but with the news of Major League Baseball expansion, Portland being mentioned. We had to sneak that in there. Also, with the news in terms of the ownership group down there in Portland, and whether or not, and John's piece should be coming out soon, that will the NBA Board of Governors approve the deal based on who is in that ownership group? And then again, with college football getting underway, we're going to save this for Hey What the Puck coming up with college football. We'll get back to it, but the season gets underway coming up this weekend. Iowa State and Kansas State. We've got Hey What the Puck coming up momentarily, but as we always do, we try to get caught up on other stories that we did not touch on throughout the day in our other news segment. Nothing groundbreaking, just quick little headlines. Quarterback situations are being resolved across the NFL. Daniel Jones, not Anthony Richardson, has been named the Colts starting quarterback. So Danny Dimes gets another opportunity to be a starter in the NFL, and it will come with the Indianapolis Colts. Meanwhile, yesterday, the Browns announced he's still playing football. I don't know if Joe Flacco's ever going to retire. I think there's a chance that Joe Flacco could play into his 60s. Joe Flacco has been named the starter for Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns. That's not the headline, though. The headline is going to be who's going to be the backup, or who is going to survive between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And, of course, we talked about Dylan Gabriel yesterday in the comments that he made to the broadcast over the weekend, where he took a shot at Shedeur Sanders. So we'll see and wait how the quarterback situation unfolds there in Cleveland. Trey Hendrickson last night told ESPN during their game against the Commanders that he and the team are close on an agreement on the total average per year and also the length of the contract, but the sticking point remains guaranteed money. It's always the guaranteed money. He ended his holdout back on July 30th. He has been with the team, but he has not practiced with the team. Over to baseball, Vlad Guerrero Jr., we touch on this with Jim Duquette. He's going to have an MRI on his hamstring after he injured it, stretching out, making 2 amazing plays over at first base, but doesn't get acknowledged a lot sometimes with him as his play at first base. So they're against the Pirates, so we'll see if he does land the severity of that injury. Reports are that it should be okay. NBA making some news on the gambling front, right? They've had a bunch of players with these prop bets, and even the prop bets have infiltrated Major League Baseball, but 3 players involved in a federal gambling investigation. The NBA and it's a players association said that they support further limitations on certain types of bets to reduce the risk of manipulation and combat athlete abuse by gamblers. In a statement, protecting the integrity of our game is paramount. We believe reasonable limitations on certain prop bets should be given due consideration. Spokesman for the NBA said in a statement to ESPN, went on further to say any approach should aim to reduce the risk of performance manipulation while ensuring that fans who wish to place prop bets can continue to do so via legal and regulated markets. Yeah, I think both leagues, all leagues need to look at the prop bets because you're going to have players and the chances to influence certain pitches, shots, what have you. That's where you're going to see the abuse of gambling, not so much the outcomes of games. That's too hard to affect the outcome of games. Affecting like these in-game prop bets, very easy for athletes to do. Probably would be a wise thing for them to eliminate it all. I knew there was a story we forgot to bring up to Canzano in terms of college football. We ran out of time. But our final in other news story comes from the Oklahoma Sooners, not Mateer in his gambling problems. Oklahoma Sooners football is offering fans in what they call the Sooner Magic Memories to get access to press conferences after games. Cost for two people to sit in is roughly $700 for their game coming up against Michigan on September 6th. For their conference opener against Auburn, it's $570. So two people get to sit in. I don't think they get to ask questions. I didn't say that in the story. They just get to sit in on the press conference. I'm not sure why you'd want to sit in on a press conference. I don't trust me, people. They're not exciting. There's nothing there. There's nothing you're going to get out of sitting in that press conference that you can't get by watching it later on your computer. Oklahoma has said in a release, you're going to get exclusive post-game media access for you and one guest and see where real-time reactions unfold. Here, OU coaches and players address reporters moments after the final whistle. Watch the story take shape through the questions, the insights, and the atmosphere that set the headlines. I'm telling you guys, it's a waste of money. It really is. There's nothing there. They've already sold out their home opener game. Illinois State sold out for somebody paid $460 so they can sit in the back and watch media slobs like me ask, what happened on 3rd and 2? Why'd you go? Why'd you run it there? I mean, okay. Whatever. Hey, if you got the money to burn in your pocket, why not burn? All right, before we get to Hey, What the Puck, reminder, the Sports Pit comes out later tonight with myself, Steve Sandmeyer, and Matt Stretch Johnson. We'll bring up that story with those guys. They'll get a kick out of it. It will be, later this evening. Again, Sports Pit for Puck's Posse members. If you're not a Posse member, want to listen to it, sign up today at pucksports.com to get full access. All right. Hey, What the Puck is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when these damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. College football did sneak up on me and probably a lot of others. I don't like that it's starting this weekend. I don't like anything like football related that starts before Labor Day. I figure we hit Labor Day, summer then is officially over, then we can transition into football. But when it happens before Labor Day, it's still summer. And I know after Labor Day, it's still technically, I think, summer. But it does. Labor Day is really the unofficially official end of summer. So it's over, then football starts. So, and I know it's going to be fun to check out the game this week, but college football is in an interesting point right now. And one thing that I think John and I can agree on is just the health of the sport. I mean, people are tuning in and people are watching more than ever. And it's the second most popular sport in our country behind the NFL. And there's a huge gap between the NFL and college football. I do disagree with John. I think if it became more of this NFL model year round, basically, I think there is an appetite for it. Maybe not so much for myself, an appetite for it, because there's not really an appetite for me with football being like this year round kind of circus to it. I understand the machine that it is and all that, but once the NFL's over, once the Super Bowl's over, my attention really wanes from the NFL and I'm more into baseball, and that gets my attention all the way up until September. I don't fawn over the draft and free agency and the combine and all that kind of stuff. And for people that do, that's great. To each their own. I do think there would be an appetite for college football with it, though, if they went that way. I like the old model of college football. I mean, there's no hiding that. I think a lot of people like the old model there of college football, but it is an interesting place where maybe they are adding new fans. Are they losing an older generation of fans? I don't know. The excitement level for me is certainly has been tempered here in the last few years just because of everything that has happened in the sport. It's not the same enthusiasm it is, knowing that, hey, we're going to, year number 2 now without the Pac-12. It's just, there's always going to be a piece of my college football heart that is missing, that all these schools still aren't together and playing each other each week, because you follow all those teams every single week. And now there's not really a reason to follow what Arizona does on a week in and week out basis, or what Utah does, or what UCLA does. You're not in the same conference anymore. It takes a adjustment, and year after year, maybe more adjustments come to the sport. I think it's lost a little bit of its luster, but when I turn around and you see TV ratings and people talk about it, and numbers of engaged people on stories that come out about college football, the rest of the nation hasn't lost interest in it. That's for sure. But here's to college football. Gets underway before Labor Day this weekend. All right, that's Hey What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Restoration Company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Give them a call, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Big thanks for everyone for watching and listening to today's show, whether it was live or the podcast. Appreciate all the support every single day. It's great. We're wrapping up our NFL coverage and our college coverage starting in a few weeks as we transition out of baseball. We still keep some of our baseball guests, but then we go real heavy into football as we get started after the Labor Day. Thank you to all our sponsors, as always, Lindback Lumber, Georgetown Brewery. Check out their new Tavern beer. Great beer for watching football, I'll tell you that, and baseball, and soccer, cricket, polo. It does not matter. You can drink Tavern beer anywhere and anytime. And also Restoration One. Today's Daily Puck Drop, find it up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel when you're there. Also find the DPD on your favorite podcast platforms. And, of course, at pucksports.com. When you're there, sign up to become a Pucks Posse member for just $5 a month. Discount if you sign up for a year. You get access to everything we do. Free and bonus shows as well. We got 3 that come out each week. The Sports Pit with KJR alums Matt Stretch Johnson and Steve Sandmeyer. Morning show lore. Also, Wednesdays, our MLB Insider Show with Seattle Times Mariners beat reporter Ryan Divish. And Thursdays, KJ Arntz with Mitch Levy, host of the world-renowned Mitch Unfiltered podcast. So go to pucksports.com and sign up, and you can find all the information there. All right, Tuesday's show in the books. Wednesday, we'll give you a sneak preview of the Sports Pit. Also, Ryan Divish stops on by our MLB Insider to talk Mariners baseball. We'll see you at 10. Until then, as always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you, but you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!